Hi, this is Ed back here again with another video. Shout out to everybody on Patreon and Subscribestar. Thank you so much for your support. Let's just get right into it here. So a lot of news to talk about in this video. Of course, the big news is that in regarding the merging of the United States military and intelligence apparatus, the military-industrial complex, with Israel, that has been halted due to the Democrats actually holding it up. Now, it's apparently going to come back in a few weeks. It'll likely pass at that particular stage. That's my guess. I have no idea. But a lot of people were asking the question, how could 50 Republican senators vote for it? And that was, they needed 60 votes in the House there, and they didn't quite have enough. So you had 50 Republican senators voting to advance the NDAA with Section 1217. 1217 is a part about the merger between the United States and Israeli military and intelligence apparatus. Now, this is interesting because the main benefactors of this is, of course, Israel. A lot of the R&D, you would say, as in the United States, research and development, whether you're for all this or not, is on the United States side with huge billions and billions. But Israel's going to share, likely in the patent of the work, the output of that, right? A lot of that stuff Israel's going to share in the patents and things like that. Now, remember Pollard from the 80s, who, Marian Adelson, who donated basically $300 million to Donald Trump, she actually put Pollard, the spy that served like 30 years inside an American jail for spying and stealing secrets from the US, then giving them and selling them to China and giving them to Israel. So he literally took secrets and done that, and for that he went to jail. Now remember that in regarding that, a lot of this information now is going to just flow back and forward. And if you have one case, so the flow was Pollard gave it to the Israelis and the Israelis sold it to the Chinese. So that's just showing you that specific architecture. Now we'll hear one former CIA agent talk about this a bit later in a little bit, but you are going to literally merge services, and the United States intelligence services a few months back, they listed Israel as one of the biggest potential threats in regarding, passing on classified information. It's an interesting situation. So anyway, 50, I should say, members of the Republican Senate voted for this. And, there's a lot of names that you'd expect, like Ted Cruz, as you can see there from Texas. But there's also other names such as Rand Paul, who voted for the merger as well. Strangely enough, today, Rand Paul tweeted this. This is after this vote at which he got all this criticism. He says, "Disobedience is the true foundation of liberty. The obedient must be slaves." So, what does that mean? It's a very cryptic thing in regarding him voting for it. And a lot of his base thought he would not be interested in this, right? Owen Sroyer said this: "What happened under the Trump administration today? Trump says we need data centers." Interesting, because all of these data centers, if there's a merger, a lot, as I've said, a lot of the traffic and intelligence collection of just public information, biometrics, data from VPNs actually is in Israel. Everything passes through there. All the VPNs, or I believe a lot of the VPNs, okay, excluding maybe Malvid, a few other smaller VPNs. That's just my guess. Maybe they do as well. I have no idea. But to my guess, that is literally the shape of things. So Trump says we need new data centers. So you invest trillions of dollars from the economy, BlackRock and all those, and then you can launder it out because those Israeli firms might need huge data centers in order, I'm just speculating, in order to store information or place information or whatever the case is. Well, they have access to them. And they didn't even have to build them because of a merger. That's what I assume if you step it out, what will happen. New CDC director supports mRNA injections, as she stated the other day in Time magazine in her interview, talking about how she doesn't want science to go backwards. Look at the strange Gorgon's knot that all of this is in, right? They're all saying there's no evidence. It's science. It's mathematics, the mRNA, even though there's tons of research now to Japan, millions and millions in terms of the sample side at which they've extracted this data in, showing vaccinated versus unvaccinated. All of this information doesn't matter. Does not matter. Information, as Yuri said in that famous video, is talking about ideological subversion, the ex-KGB expert on propaganda, mind control, things of that nature, stating in that late 80s or early 90s clip there where he's being interviewed, talking about you can shower people with information. It's meaningless. It just bounces off their heads. That's where we are now. It doesn't matter if you have evidence of anything. Evidence doesn't even matter. That's what the new world is today. Evidence doesn't matter. You can be Donald Trump and you can have Tulsi Gabbard say that Iran is, 10 years, or doesn't have the capabilities to make a nuclear weapon. At the stage, she's the head of, director of, national intelligence. Okay, so she collects all the information. She has reports sent to her from all facets of the intelligence communities. And she states that's not happening. Doesn't matter. Donald Trump says that, it's still happening. Donald Trump says. Because he went out to his Palantir device from Lord of the Rings or whatever, your company as well. Palantir obviously is bankrolling, but goes out to his crystal ball and sees it, or he dreamed it, or maybe he was out there playing golf and he's seen an apparition. Whatever your opinion is, I don't know if they're making it or not. I assume that Iran already has nuclear weapons. China shipped them in by train or whatever the case is, or flew them in. It's kind of ridiculous. If nuclear weapons exist, I know that's a strange statement, but if they do exist, then they have them, right? They're I might be blowing out my mic here. Let me just turn down my level a little bit here. Hopefully that's better for listeners. So they have one, right? It have to be ridiculous. It have to be. It's ridiculous to think they don't. But the director of national intelligence says, they don't have it or don't have capability. It doesn't matter. That's why evidence doesn't matter anymore. It's just whoever can scream the loudest, i.e. the translation from that is whoever has the most sophisticated propaganda. That's all it means. Propaganda is legalized in the United States against its people like it is nearly in any country now. Even if it wasn't legalized, the blowback, the spill or whatever from Allied propaganda is the same thing. Everyone's just propagandized, right? We're all under a form of sophisticated, multi-layered mind control in order to affect our decision making and turn us into little vehicles that can be driven. Anyway, Owen Sroyer says, new CDC director supports mRNA injection, so nothing moved on that front at all. If anything, it's the apparatus that's responsible for mRNA technology and this complete disaster has been solidified and rewarded to the tune of billions of dollars and promotions. What happened to Fauci? It's kind of funny, isn't it, that they say, or release this evidence, Tulsi Gabbard does, at least she released something, which said this about Fauci after the statute of limitations expired, so there's nothing they could do anyway. Plus he got a pardon. That's why anything that Donald Trump does, he'll just pardon everyone for it. So the House votes, and this is in the United States obviously, to merge military with Israel. We went over that. It didn't go through. It's been held up by But when it comes back in a couple of weeks or a week or whenever they pull it back, it'll likely pass then. Pentagon says Iran war costs $100 billion. Costs more than that. Okay, it costs way more than that. Joe Kent had this to say: as the war in Iran escalates, it's critical to remember the role Israel played in drawing us into the mess. Israel convinced Trump that assassinating the Ayatollah would result in a swift US victory similar to the removal of Maduro in Venezuela. Now, despite the obvious and concerning security and sovereignty implications, our Congress is trying to merge the military with Israel. So he had that to say on the topic. Whether you're for it or against it, that is how it's been received in the United States. However, as Aaron Sroyer points out, this is Department of War, says, are you trusting the plan, Patriots? Question mark, American flag. Trust the plan. The Marine is saluting Donald Trump as he gets off Marine One. And Owen Sawyer says, so am I supposed to believe in Q now? Or what exactly are we doing here? Well, as I noted months ago, Donald Trump's openly posting Q memes. Even if you believe in Q or not, you must, if you believe in Q, you must be kind of suspect about all this when you see something like the Department of War tweeting it and using it as a device. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Okay? To me, when I see that, it's like straight out of some kind of science fiction dystopia or something. That's why when I read a science fiction novel or watch a science fiction TV show, the layers of complexity in regarding that to the real world is just nothing compares. Everything seems tame. That might be why a lot of movies are also one vector as well as the other overall demoralization and decay which is installed into them in order to break people's spirit, because of course everyone's spirit has to be broken. When I look at them, the complexity is not there. It's not complex enough for me. I'm talking about how the schemes are. Like there's so many schemes and angles being worked. It's like that movie Carlito's Way that starred Al Pacino, which I remember as a rather good movie. And he's always talking about the angles that are being worked on the streets. Like a lot of this kind of stuff seems like some kind of street angle, but like so many layers to it. You don't actually see how you're being worked or conned until after you get out the door, go home, and then you figure out, hey, does that company I just paid all that money to exist? Well, maybe a month down the line after they've cashed the checks, actually. The angle is everything's an angle. And that's what's being worked here. You can see it plainly, but it's kind of like after you've been conned, you can see it in hindsight. It's difficult to see. It would have been difficult to see a year ago. So Marjorie Taylor Greene had this to say: every Republican senator voted to merge our military with Israel's military. The most American last thing they could possibly do, selling our military out to a foreign country. It's absolute treason and betrayal. Now, being an objective reporter, well, I'm not a reporter. What am I? Some person that talks on the internet? What is that? I don't know. A loser? Is that what I am? Am I just a loser? A paranoid loser? Okay. So for paranoid losers like me, who are like scouting out all kinds of things to be paranoid about, which I think is fair in this world, obviously. This year I only just figured out that I might not believe in nuclear weapons. I'm not sure if that helps me. Marjorie Taylor Greene stated this: it's absolute treason and betrayal. So this is a word I've seen repeated over and over and over again by everybody. I've never seen anybody that wasn't getting a paycheck, outside people that are getting direct paychecks. I'm sure John Posobiec thinks that, this is fantastic. And maybe you do too. But the words I seen being used were treason and betrayal quite a lot. So you can judge for yourselves on that, of course. Now, here is where a CIA officer was being interviewed by Patrick Bet-Davis. And I'll show you an interesting thing here, but let's play some of this video. I'll stop it here and there, but let's play a little bit of it here.
I'm going to give you 4 countries to be paranoid about. Which of them would you give the biggest percentage all the way to the smallest? So you have these 4 categories. You have Islam.
Okay.
So within Islam, we have IRGC, Qatar, just include all of them. We have Israel, because you know Israel is also coming up a lot of different places. Then we have China, and we have Russia. Where does your paranoia lie the most for the next 10 years with these 4 different countries as well as Islam? Just rank them in order and give like 45% would be Islam, 25 would be this.
Yeah, so China takes the massive chunk of pie for me. China is the #1 strategic threat to the United States.
What did you put on China?
50%.
Okay.
Islam, I gave 5%. I'm not worried about Islam. There are other countries that need to worry about Islam, but we're not one of them. Russia, I gave 20%, and then Israel, I gave 25%. So I am actually saying we should be more.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you something else that is within this, right? First of all, of course, the statistic there is, and he goes on about this, but this individual is a CIA agent who had a big, massive, famous for having that disagreement with John Kiriakou where they're kind of like yelling at each other. I think it was on Julie's, no, it was on, I can't remember whose podcast, but one of the big podcasts where they're both on. But he runs, so here let's go back a little bit. So you hear it. I'll just play it. Sorry to interrupt. Let's just play it. But it is 6 minutes, so I won't play all of it.
We're not one of them. Russia, I gave 20%, and then Israel, I gave 25%. So I am actually saying we should be more paranoid of Israel than Russia.
And Islam, 5 times Islam.
5 times Islam.
Let's start off with Islam first, and then we'll go to Israel. Why did you put Islam the lowest out of all of them at 5%?
I don't see Islam as a threat to the United States. And that's what I was seeing it as. Paranoid to me, right? What am I paranoid? It's not Islam. Islam is it's difficult for them to reach us with any significance. When they reach us, it's difficult for them to bypass our security systems, whether they're cybersecurity systems, police systems, border security systems, etc. Meanwhile, Israel actually has the ability to drag us into all sorts of shit that actually does impact us. We are all paying more money for oil right now because of Israel. We are all suffering under an international outcry against American leadership because of Israel. The whole world questions whether or not the president of the United States is even making his own decisions or whether he's the puppet of Israel. So Israel has an incredible ability to frustrate and put us in quagmire that Islam just doesn't have.
Okay, so what's the worst thing that Israel could do to us? Go a little further. So because you put 25%, that's a real threat. You put it bigger than Russia and Islam. So what are some things they could do to us?
So I'm not worried about Israel sending a bomb into New York. If that's what you're worried about, we're worried about different things. Israel could easily launch a false flag operation that sends us into a war. They can have an Israeli who poses as a Palestinian, who goes in and causes some kind of crazy shit in Syria, and now all of a sudden the entire United States is engaged in Syria because of something that Israel set up as a false flag. And that is something that the Mossad does all the time. They do it very well, very eloquently. They already selectively share intelligence with the United States. And the reason you selectively share intelligence is to create the opportunity for misdirection or malintent. So Israel's already involved in these kinds of operations at a very high success rate. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about them backstabbing the United States. I'm concerned about them undermining our national interests. I'm concerned about them choosing, like they did with Iran, to escalate rhetoric about a certain issue that's more important to them than it is to us, that then goes on to affect us.
Okay, perfect. So then the infiltration of Islam, some say, to EU and what's happening to a lot of those countries, UK, Germany, you're seeing it all over the place. And to the point where Rupert Lowe did a paper, the 250,000, stories of girls being raped in UK, 87% being Pakistanis and Muslims. And then seeing what's going on in the US right now with New York City, Mamdani wins history. individuals that also want. So that's not going into the financial capital of the world in the States. Do you have any concern of them? They're infiltrating the United States in the future.
So here, this is another thing I think is very interesting, right? Islam is the only thing on this list that's not a nation state.
It is.
It's a religion.
That's right.
I'm not worried about a religion.
Okay, so let me just break in there. Notice what Patrick Bet-Davis does here. He states that all the Islamic immigrants, illegal refugees, whatever the case is, from all around the world, from Syria, whatever the case is, they're all poured into there. So, I had to pause it there for a second. There was a bug that came in. I had to take care of it. So otherwise it's going to buzz around or something. But, so you see what Patrick Bet-Davis says there. He says the 200,000 rapes and things like this, which is extremely serious, or the hundreds of thousands, millions and millions of people pouring into all of these countries systematically, right, all at the same time, which by itself points to a conspiracy. But here's the thing. No blame is ever put on the governments for any of this. You wouldn't have 250,000 assaults if the police were doing their job. Clearly, they were let to do whatever they want. So he's using that as an example, even though it's the government's responsibility. It's the governments that caused that. It's the governments that opened up all the borders and let anybody in without any kind of screening. There's obviously a difference between a family coming in wanting to create the best life possible, hardworking, good-hearted people that would make great neighbors, right? We all know who these kinds of people are. It doesn't matter where they come from in the world. They're good people. There's a difference between that and someone that comes out of a Syrian psychiatric facility or something like that and is crazy and they've put on a train and said to send to Europe and just get rid of them, right? Well, Syria is kind of like, it's obviously a lot of that's caused by the war and all these other types of things that happened. But no responsibility in that equation at all, none, that actually has, part of that equation being the government's responsibility. I don't like using just the government because it's actually individuals within that umbrella that is their responsibility, to protect its citizenry, to protect not only the people that are alive, but protect their way of life into the future. They've betrayed every single element of that. But none of the blame from Patrick Bet-Davis's end, none of it ends up in that area. No, it's the fact that it's just a blanket term. It's Islam. It's Islam. Right now you have people that are Islamic that are taking care of children and babies, right? That have been blown apart in Gaza, risking their lives in order to help people. It's Islam that's responsible. See, the trick is you've always got to have something abstract to point to. You can never point to actual areas that if they were fixed, if these people were out of there, you could actually start recalibrating things, right? You can't point to actual names that are responsible for the problem. In England, there's a lot of names, and the entire cabinets of both parties, for example, all of them responsible. Liz Truss actually came out, I think it was a week ago in an interview. She was like the 1 week prime minister before she was out. And she basically stated there was a cabal in charge. She didn't use those exact words, that if you got out of line, you basically, your political career was over. Which isn't surprising. All countries would have this, right? Anyway, it's just that they're not working in the best interests of the people at all. At least if you have somebody that owns like a manor country house and they are, at least there might be some semblance that they want to protect the community that surrounds them or their people or the people they rule over, at least in some type of way. But what you have now is you have faceless, multinational individuals that just float around the globe from job to job and have no loyalty to the actual country, town, village that they are part of, that they have their house in, because they don't have their house just there. They have houses all around the world. Here was an interesting one. This is, we're getting a lot from Venezuela, he says. This is, of course, the Treasury Secretary there. Let's have a listen to him here.
And we're getting more gold from Venezuela, I hear.
We're getting a lot from Venezuela. We're getting gold. These oil sales are going great. It's going back to the Venezuelan people.
We have the Trump.
None of that, hardly any of that's ever going back to the Venezuelan people, right? There's no evidence. Maybe there's a little trickle, but I would expect it to be something whereby Venezuelans are just basically supplying a tax. Because why would they need the Americans back in the equation? There was a lot of those American refineries and things like that were set up, of course, for a period of time, but the Venezuelans went their own way. Look, I'm not an expert on the region, maybe some people can correct me, but they're getting lots of gold and things of that nature. Well done to them. By the way, Donald Trump says they're on the phone with Iran. He always says that on the weekend. It doesn't matter what weekend it is. Every time the markets get spooks, he says he's on the phone. Apparently, according to Russia Today, roughly 66% of Iran's parliament issued a joint statement expressing desire for end of any agreements with the US. Majority of lawmakers urge government to pursue revenge for late Ayatollah there, who was murdered, airstriked, whatever you call it, Khamenei there. So here is something interesting. This got 1.3 million views. They might have corrected it by now. But this is what people are stating. And Apple has been doing this before, according to individuals, and that's erasing towns. Apple removes all village names in southern Lebanon from its maps. What is the justification for this? What is the reason? This individual asked the Palestinian. So they've just erased all the towns. As part of the Greater Israel Project, by the way, and all those towns are just gone. Some of them are ancient, right? Ancient, thousand churches that are thousands of years old, or 1,000+ years old, thousands of years actually. So there you see it there, all gone. Lovely. And again, where is the press? Their secret was, I guess, there was no... we all thought that the mainstream news or the news was corrupt. But I think we needed to reconfigure that and say, well, it doesn't exist. Because we all like to say that they can't be trusted or the mainstream media lie or whatever your opinion is on it. Maybe you think that's the case, maybe not. But we never really raised the question, does it exist at all? I am of the belief now that there is no news. There hasn't been for many years. There's no real reporters. Seymour Hersh, a few others obviously around, a lot of independent press. But in general, in terms of being mainstream, it doesn't exist. There is no news. It literally is just propaganda. So the Health Ranger had this to say. This is based upon this here. Well, so the Health Ranger had this, and this is based on the Hormuz letter, stating, breaking, Trump announces starting next week the US will strike all of Iran's power plants, bridges, and energy sites, which is a war crime, attacking civilian civilian infrastructure that's not directly linked to military. He says the US will also strike Iran hard tonight, so on and so forth. This comes as Iran just announced a full withdrawal from the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, which was just a bunch of agreements, basically, which said that Iran can trade its oil, benefit from that, and Iran will not pursue nuclear weapons. Go back in time, right, to the beginning of this. Iran said, we're not going to provide nuclear weapons. I don't even think there was talk about unfreezing the oil. I could be mistaken at that stage. It was just, we're not going to pursue nuclear weapons if that's what it takes for you to go away. The Health Ranger has this to say. If Trump does this, Iran will, and by the way, this is happening. Okay, happened. We don't know if they're bombing like holes in the ground or hitting real infrastructure. They did hit some gas infrastructure of Iran, something to do with that. Can't exactly remember what it was. But the health ranger says if this happens, Qatar's remaining LNG trains, which will be obliterated in Qatar, Iran would obliterate Qatar's remaining LNG trains, which would leave the entire world without LNG, liquid natural gas, from Qatar for about a decade. Lovely. That's all it has to do. As I said the other day, what is the point? I mean, all they have to do, they could create a mass starvation event that's worse than a nuclear bomb by just hitting some of the, stopping the Middle Eastern countries surrounding Iran, which is a lot of them, including Israel, that they wouldn't be able to desalinate their water anymore. They'd all die. You can't support in Israel a population, 9 million people, without being able to desalinize your water, i.e. take the salt out. By the way, all this stuff about that you hear about there being limited water or something, obviously these are the cases in places that have explosion in populations within the Middle East, places within Africa, although there's a lot of actual water in Africa in different parts. But they're always going on. And again, this is another scam. Because they talk about this in New Zealand all the time, that there's not going to be any water or there's going to be a water crisis. What are you talking about? Why don't you go set up some desalination plants and suck some out of the sea? There's enough out there. You could actually get all the salt and use the salt as well. But you never have to pay for it again. Although, sea salt's obviously questionable. But once it comes out of those desalination plants, I'm assuming they harvest it at the same time. Do they? I don't know. Maybe they just throw it out. But that salt that you could extract, obviously from seawater, if you could use that salt, and salt isn't exactly expensive. This isn't exactly something you drink by the litre. Okay. It lasts quite a long time, but, you would have a lot of salt, right? And I don't know what you'd do with that much salt, but you would have a lot of it. It's not, I was just wondering if the salt would be a very good quality salt. I guess if it's going through that machinery, it might be, or it might have like hidden plastics in it or whatever. Don't know. But anyway, that's all that has to happen, the health ranger says, and regarding the LNG trains. So Trump isn't merely at war with Iran. In other words, he's waging a war on the entire human race. He's assaulting the very civilization or infrastructure that made our modern population possible to sustain. The infrastructure can be destroyed in an instant, and rebuilding time of a decade or longer. He should go to jail, right? Donald Trump, for everything he's done and all of these things that he's done, it's amazing to me. He'll never go to jail because he'll just pardon himself and pardon everybody else. It's just, is there any real justice? It's like a lot of politicians, wherever they are, they're all immune. I don't think I've seen a politician, high-ranking one, ever go to jail lately for anything. And once it's gone, there's no going back to the way things were in 2025. And during the new dark age, what will billions of humans eat if there is no fertilizer available for agriculture? The honest answer is that they sooner or later start eating each other. Prepare accordingly and demand an end to this senseless war before we all find ourselves in the crosshairs of a global destruction and the death of billions of human beings. Yeah. That's what's happened. And everyone treats Donald Trump, there's a lot that treat him like Sun Tzu's Art of War, like it's like amazing. It's just, no, this is somebody that doesn't even know what they're doing. No, anybody that knows what they're doing wouldn't have get involved in this in the first place. The United States is constantly, and its allies are constantly wargaming the situation if the Strait of Hormuz is closed. The only way to keep it open is to leave. But as I've said before, he can't leave because he's got narcissistic personality disorder. He cannot be humiliated. You have to make him seem like he is the greatest, like he's the great. In fact, when he talks, when I listen to him talk, knowing what all the generals and the CIA people and whatever, all these kind of podcasts I listen to, they all say the similar thing, that this is catastrophic, whatever the case is. And they all have all these things of what's happening. They've got internal sources, obviously the news sources as well. It is absolutely the complete opposite of what's happening, what he talks about. He says that it's like he's got a made up belief on what happened. It's just like something conjured in the shower or something. It has no resemblance to what's happening. So Health Ranger said because he didn't explain it in high detail as to what his last posts were. So here he goes into a lot of detail, right? He's got 3 posts. I think I read the last part of it. But those are 3 posts. You can pause at this point. No, I didn't. I don't think I read the last part of it. So, Iran is what's happening as you have boats exploding. I'm sure you were all aware of these types of things, right? The tank has been sunk, whatever the case is, multiple reports stating that these things take years in order to build. Okay, you just don't go over to the shipyard and go get yourself a gigantic tanker. No, years to build this. They're worth like $1 billion each. And do you think that they're just going to be able, even the insurance companies that are involved here, are they covered? Do you think they can take these kinds of losses? You're talking about a collapse of the possible infrastructure surrounding all these companies that are shipping oil as well. They can't take losses like this. Their whole entire lives in some of these shipping companies are invested in the small tanker fleet that they have. Here's this individual saying, well, this is in reply to Daily Iran News, that say the ship was given a chance to pass the Strait of Hormuz by the US without even coordinating with the IRGC, and is now at the bottom of the sea. This individual saying, this must be fake news. Trump has told us at least a dozen times that Iran has been completely wiped out. No navy, no air defense, stockpiles obliterated, and yet they can blow up ships. So here is regarding the Health Ranger. First, he says you have to apologize because he didn't go into a depth enough as to what's happening. He says, I think I've failed to explain with significant clarity on my part, and it's important to get this right. Our current global population is 8+ billion people, is only alive because of the supply chain infrastructure built over the last 60 years or so, which saw dramatic scaling of natural gas extraction infrastructure largely into Qatar, North America, dramatic improvements in oil extraction from existing Persian Gulf wells, etc., etc. He's talking about also the loss of sulfuric acid that extracts phosphate from fertilizer. For phosphate, rock ore, for example, comes from pulling excess sulfur out of our sour crude oil. And he goes into all the things we're losing, including nitrogen, which has been lost. This is huge amounts of petrochemicals and stuff that's required, that is extracted from the actual refinery process and all other different processes that are used. These are all removed from our environment now. We are dependent upon them. You can read more on that one. These are quite lengthy explanations. Right now, literally 50% of the global population is kept alive from food that is fertilized using nitrogen, fertilizers derived from natural gas. A significant portion of that gas comes out of the Persian Gulf, but no longer. Not since Trump bombed Iran and started this war, resulting in Iran closing off the Strait of Hormuz. Qatar Energy, which has suffered extensive damage to 2 of its LNG processing trains and suffered a catastrophic explosion when trying to restart one a few weeks ago. Now, he's reiterating stuff from his first point. You can read more on screen. You kind of get the point as he goes down here. The lack of fertilizer means a massive die-off on planet Earth is unavoidable if the infrastructure destruction in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, etc. escalates to the point of an all-out war. And there is the last part, talking about, I would normally say at this point, I hope you have a year's supply of food to make it through what's coming, but honestly, that won't be enough if Trump pushes into an all-out infrastructure destruction war, the loss of 60 plus years of human infrastructure, and has allowed the population to double from 4 to 8 billion over just a few decades will be reversed, and the population will shrink from 8 to 4 billion or possibly less. Maybe under 400 million. I guess that is their aim, isn't it? You can't get him with the old Vaxosaurus, so you try something else. I mean, he loves the World Economic Forum now. Hillary Clinton's penning op-ed letters, what was in the New York Times, supporting the war in Iran and all this. Also, and I won't talk about this for that long, but as Edward Dowell says, China is hoarding copper, which might mean that they're getting ready for war. Let's have a listen to what he says here, about 3 minutes.
Why is copper still elevated here, despite all of this weakness that we see in the data when it comes to the economy?
Yeah, we've done some work on this. We think China is hoarding copper. China is they're buying real assets. They keep printing money to the tune of 10% a year, and they're converting a lot of their trade surpluses into real assets. So they're hoarding look, if you're going to hoard copper, that indicates you might be getting ready for war as well. So there seems to be a hoarding issue going on there. It's not an indication that things are really well in the economy. They continue to just buy and stockpile.
Wow. So if China gets into a war, now you've got 3 theaters. I'm presuming if China does get into war, it'd probably be Taiwan.
Look, just because they're hoarding doesn't mean the war is imminent. It just means that they're getting ready for something. And they're buying real assets. One of the biggest problems we have with China is they're 47% of the global money supply. People don't know that. That came out in our China report.
Half the money supply?
Yeah, half the money supply of the world. But they have very low velocity of money. That's why, and they're in a deflationary death spiral because of their demographics. So what they're doing with their money in aggregate is buying real assets.
I see. So when you say velocity of money, just to kind of paint a picture for the audience who may not know, money velocity is the turnover rate of money. So if you've got like $100 billion, but you just stick it underneath a mattress and it doesn't, or a huge mattress in this case, it doesn't circulate in the economy, then it really has no impact on inflation because it hasn't.
Correct. And I think our velocity of money is 1.5. China's I think is 0.4 or 0.6, much lower than ours. That's why you're not seeing any inflation in China. In fact, it's the opposite. The savings rate in China is exploding. There's no safety net there, and as their economy continues to crumble, they're having the problem of the consumers that are doing well are not spending, they're saving and hoarding.
And the real estate market is not doing too well either, right? It's like down 50% or something like that.
Oh, it's a disaster. But what held them up, the disaster started in 2021, but they had a bunch of long-lived projects. So construction had only rolled 20%, whereas land new permitting was down 70-80%. So that's now starting to roll. We saw construction year over year go negative in the.
So also, I don't know if they mentioned it there because I got like this text message. I was waiting for like something. I know my phone seems to always be on, but it's just around this time I was waiting for a text message about something. So I'm not sure they talked about there, but a lot of the Chinese, of course, are holding on to their money. They're not buying things, which, you feel like you're in an unsafe world. And it is an unsafe world out there. It looks like a mess. Okay, what are we up to? 44 minutes. I want to point this out very quickly. We'll get into Robert Kennedy Jr. But this here, which is called, I don't think I have the thing that references it, actually. Oh, yeah. This is how it's said. It's, because I don't know how to pronounce it, it says Shahai Layli. Shahai Layli? Is that it? Shahai Layla or Layhi. Shahai Layli. Well, apparently that is an Irish word for these particular types of canes, which I've seen people hold. I think in the there is a movie called The Field with Richard Harris, John Hurt. There's someone else in that I can't remember. I think it is. Who's the person that, well, it's no use asking, but the individual, Robert Redford's in it. I believe Robert Redford might be in it just for like he's in it as an American businessman. But it's called The Field. It's about a field which, this kind of was sold or going to be sold to Richard Harris. And then he gets upset because this American businessman comes and buys it. It's based in Ireland. And I believe he walks around with a cane or one of these sticks with these like heavy ends on them. I was wondering what they were, but they're actually a fighting stick that's traditional to Ireland. I don't know what they were. I can't pronounce the name. What was it? Shahai Layli or something. Shahai Layli. Shahai Haley? I don't know. But yeah, I just came across it. I thought it was interesting. And it is this particular type of stick. I mean, maybe they're much more well known in the United States, where of course you've got a large Irish population. But here in New Zealand, I never heard about them before. It'd just be like a stick to me with some kind of, it's a stick with a heavy ending to it. Apparently can be used as a club and a fighting weapon. In fact, when you look online, there are these clubs in Ireland where they teach fighting with these sticks. Apparently quite popular. Now, obviously that stick is with a weighted end, and obviously it's probably designed in order to be damaging. For all I know, it's probably not a stick. It could be like, look, some of these look like they're just a piece of metal with, some kind of like wrapping over top of it. So I'm sure they could do a lot of damage to somebody, but I never heard about them before. Now, there is one place where now in reflection, I know where it is. And that is in Gangs in New York. And it is used by, I've forgotten his name. Here's a great actor. He was in a Stephen King adaptation, Mr. Mercedes. I've forgotten his name, but he played a character in there with one of these. It was one of these actually, but it had a big end on it like a club, and he was an Irishman. So on reflection now, I see that is imprinted into those older the works and the histories, but I just never had heard about it before myself. And I just thought I'd just talk about there for a second. So let's jump into Robert Kennedy Jr., and I do have intermission coming up. Robert Kennedy Jr. stated, I'm trying to be on a cleaner carnivore diet because I am eating rice, but I thought I'd move on to fruit and just like fruit and meat. So I'll see how that goes next week. Robert Kennedy Jr. on his carnivore diet with, he eats fermented food and he eats meat and a little bit of yogurt, okay? Steak and yogurt for breakfast, meat, sauerkraut, kimchi for the rest, and I'm assuming this is all organic because he's very wealthy. He lost 20 pounds of visceral fat in 30 days, regained it as muscle, and his arterial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat, disappeared. A strict but effective approach because he reduced the visceral fat around his organs. Of course, obviously, when I am an advocate of the plant-based diet, there is cases of completely reversing heart disease on the plant-based diet as well. I don't think plants are evil. I think that there's a lot of pesticides on it, so it's harder to eat, without you go full on organic to get away from the glyphosate. But I'll play some of this here.
What do you eat for breakfast? What did you eat for breakfast today?
Today I had steak and
Okay.
I had yogurt.
Steak
So
and yogurt.
I eat grass-fed milk on top or cream on top yogurt, and that I have a very restricted diet that I've been on for about 250 days. But it's a carnivore diet with ferments. So it's carnivore, and then the only other thing I eat is ferments. So sauerkraut, kimchi, any kind of fermented vegetable, which there's a huge selection in most grocery stores. And then a lot of yogurt. It's very strict because it's carnivore. It's, meat with
So no
fermented
carbs. No
vegetable.
carbs.
No carbs.
No carbs.
No, but I'll tell you what happened. I had a 5 different people over a 2-week period telling me, you got to see this Dr. Sean Kaufman, who's a military doctor. He was a lieutenant colonel in the military. Well, I called him and he said, you got to do a full body MRI. I probably wouldn't have seen him if I had to do the full body MRI, but I'd already done one. So I sent him the copies of that. Sort of in preparation for this job, I did one. And I sent him a copy of that. And he then got on a Zoom with me and he showed me my heart was covered with visceral fat.
Wow.
My liver was covered with visceral fat. All of my viscera was covered with it. And he said, if you don't already have atrial fibrillations, you're going to have them. And I had had atrial fibrillations every day for 4 months. And he told me a lot of other bad stuff that was going to happen to me. So he said, I can get rid of it all within 90 days. And he said, you do this diet. So I did the diet for 30 days. Then I did another full body MRI, and my visceral fat had gone down by 40%
Wow.
in just 30 days. I also lost 20 pounds, which I didn't want to lose, but I lost a lot. And I was actually worried about the amount of weight I was losing. He said, don't worry. It's all the interstitial visceral fat in your muscles that you're losing, and then your muscles will come back. And
So there you are. And of course, if you're not, well, if he's eating yogurt, obviously has carbohydrates in it, okay? So does, like about 10 per, 5 per 100 grams. I know because I was looking at the back of the yogurt I was eating last night. As I said, it's kind of turning into a bit of a thing, like, but I'm making my own yogurt too, by the way. Like when I get the meat, I get the yogurt and I put it all over the meat when you put it in the air fryer. And it actually, I don't know, I think it adds something, maybe not. I mean, they do it in India, right? But I'm not Indian, by the way, but I have a friend that's Indian. And, a few friends that are Indian over the years, actually. So he's on the ketogenic diet, but he still eats carbohydrates. Obviously, there's not much in kimchi or cabbage vegetables. They're considered low carb, but if he's eating yogurt and stuff, he's probably eating just enough, but then your body is burning all this fat, right? So interesting. Obviously, if you go to the doctor, they'll just hand you some pills, right? They just hand you pills. They say, take all these pills. Here's another thing. So I was researching gum. Now, I can't eat, as I learned many years ago, can't eat artificially sweetened gum. It gives me like ulcers in my mouth, like it's poison. It's surprising to me. So I never eat it. I mean, chew it. As I don't eat it, I don't swallow it. But one thing I really learned was in the artificial sweetener gum, they have aspartame. But did you know that they have aspartame actually in sugared gum as well. That is gum that has just sugar. It's just a sugary gum. They actually put artificial sweeteners in that, so the more you chew it, the artificial sweetener outlasts the sugar, and then it still keeps its sweetness. Why would I ever want to buy a gum, that says like it's just got sugar in it, that's now got aspartame as well in it? So both your sugared gum, a lot of it, and your artificial sweetener have aspartame, i.e. also known back in the days as Rumsfeld's disease. The gift that keeps on giving. Welcome to intermission. This is a section at which we're not quite in the middle because I forgot to put this in the middle, but yeah, near the ending here. I do have some other stories to talk about after this, not that many, but I guess a few there, little ones. But I want to talk about some of the things I have seen that I DNF'd, which is, actually, what is that, DNF? No, it's DNR, did not read. Is that it? I can't remember. It's what people use in the book community, but I've forgotten what they were talking about. Nonetheless, in terms of things that I picked up, I never finished, right? Or things that I liked in terms of watching mostly. So I tried once again, to watch The Expanse, and I've tried about 5 times. Now, I have watched the first season, but honestly, when I watch it, I don't get it. Like they're talking a lot about Mars and Earth and missiles and stuff, and go, what's happening? I don't know what you're talking about. Like with Star Trek, was at a slow enough roll for me to understand what they're talking about. But this, they're just like things happening. It's the moon and something, and someone's laying on a house. I'm going, what is going on? I couldn't understand it, and I tried. Like I was laying there, I was watching it, and I go, okay, I get that this. I got to season 2 because I watched season 1 many years ago, right, when it first came out, and I put it down and never picked it up. I just said, I don't get it. And so I was on season 2, giving it a chance, and I got like to the 5th episode, and someone had a bomb. It's the guy out of The Mist, actually. He's a rather good actor. I've forgotten his name, but he had a bomb or something, and I was going, I can understand that. They're going to blow something up. Just like this bird made out of light or something, and there's all these floating things. I go, what is all this? And then there's this lady in a chair made out of light. I was like, what is this? Is this a show about magic? Because I don't understand what's happening. So when I was watching that, I was going, nah, I don't get it. So I'm going to pick it up again and keep on going a little bit, but then if I put it down again, it's over. It's never getting picked up. But I had to keep on picking up because it's got like an 8.5, and everyone goes on about the Expanse. I'm sure maybe the books are excellent, but I just can't follow the show. Maybe I'm just too old now. There's too many things happening. Also, I don't really get it. Like, I don't like it. The future to me is people always imagine a future, but they don't go far enough. Right? I think Dune went far enough. Right? Dune went far enough. But Dune, the movie, has got nothing to do really in terms of looks or things I imagine from the books. In fact, this is unpopular, but I didn't like the movies. Okay? They didn't feel like the books to me, so I couldn't really get into them. Now, I understand how someone that's never read the books, or maybe someone that's read the books, I don't know, really likes it. But it wasn't for me. For instance, Dune is supposed to be like colourful. Like, there's supposed to be colours and, heraldry of the house, they're supposed to be over things, right? They're supposed to, the world, like the vibrancy, everything's supposed to be kind of felt vibrant to me. When you go see the Emperor, everything should be like, Caligula, Nero, or what's his name? Tiberius, actually. Emperor Tiberius, like times like 50 or something. 100. So yeah, I didn't get into Dune. It just felt like I was in some type of like carpet store, and they couldn't really get past all the different whites and greys in terms of a color scheme, black. Like I don't like what do I want my world to look like a kitchen for? I don't, right? I want the deserts to almost like glow, like with like orange, or like, I want the Freemen to look like they live in another planet, right? The Freemen are based upon the Iranians, by the way. They have massive like water aqueducts underground and stuff. And that guy that played the main role in Dune, he doesn't seem like Paul Atreides to me. It just doesn't really. Just always looks like at the ground, like he's like, oh, I'm looking for my. Feels like someone at school, the people at school with their head down and they look at the ground. Their school bags barely on. Paul Atreides is trained his entire life by a Bene Gesserit mother in order to be in that role. Now, I'll tell you one version I did like, even though it didn't match the color scheme, as I was just talking about colors, but it was much better, and that was David Lynch's Dune. See, David Lynch has a mind which is bordering on, it's very strange in terms of his worlds. He's a brilliant director, filmmaker, and storyteller, absolutely brilliant. Original. When I watch his stuff, I always smile and say, wow, they're so well done, especially when I was recently watching Twin Peaks. I was like, he's just such a good writer. And when I watched Dune, because David Lynch couldn't create exactly what he wanted, so the theatrical cut is okay. But there's a cut on the internet called the Spice Driver cut. And if you watch that with new scenes that from the DVD features and stuff blended seamlessly in there, it is done so well. That person they should put out a DVD and thank that guy and pay him and put out a DVD called the Spice Driver cut, because it's really well done. But yes, I thought that copy of Doom was strange enough. I mean, look at the Navigators. The Navigators are supposed to be on spice that deforms them because they've been on there for so long, right? And they are basically helping navigate across space. The Spacing Guild is one of the main power entities within the Dune Landsrat and all this other kind of stuff. I won't get into too much details, but the entire idea of the story is it's so outside the realms of, like, everyone was saying when it came out, I never read anything like this before. What is this? That's because it's got giant sandworms. It's got like Freeman. It's got like the spice, right, which changes your consciousness. Like, man, like, it's like an acid mushroom trip that you've never been on. But it's like something that came from a writer that I believe was heavily involved in hallucinogens when he was writing parts of it. Well, when he was into hallucinogens, from memory, I remember someone talking to a biographer, or maybe it was him personally. Him and his wife were really into it. So the fact is that what I felt you got from Villeneuve is just some kind of milquetoast, a vending machine version, which was like, just, and I don't get why everybody says he's the greatest director ever, honestly. Yes, he can direct shots. It looks beautiful here. I mean, when I look at Blade Runner 2025 with the waterfall shot, beautiful. Looks great. But, I mean, look, maybe I'm just old. Just different person. Anyway, The Expanse to me, and again, it might be different from the books. I haven't read the books. I might read the books. It just, like, I was watching it, it's going on about the moon. Going on about the moon, and you're going on about, like, Mars, and there's a lady, she's a Chinese lady laying on the roof looking up at the stars. It's like, what? And there's rockets, and then there's, like, birds that are made of light. I don't know what this is. What is this? And of course, the future would be strange because you're dealing with high technology, but I don't understand what this is. It's like Game of Thrones or something with rocket ships. It's like, I don't know, there's the Red Lady and magic and, Can't remember that guy's name. What's that guy's name? I don't know if they killed him off or not because I haven't seen the next episode, but I'm assuming he's dead. Come back. Maybe he'll come back later as some kind of like Luke Skywalker ghost or something. in that kind of like pathetic last scene of The Last Jedi, which was such a... Well, I'll say this. There are some people that like it, but what I would say is, like, to me, it is a specimen that should be in some kind of like museum of the death of a franchise. So that's one. Now, I branched out on The Wizard of Oz, and I was looking at other Wizard of Oz movies that have come about through the years, including the early black and white, silent, and also this interesting case here from 1969 called The Wonderful Land of Oz. Now, this is not executed very well because it's a very low budget production, so you have to kind of know that walking in. This looks like somebody with maybe $1,000 in a video camera or a film camera back then. It's only got a 2 on Internet Movie Database, which I believe ranks it lower than, what is it, Mando Hand of Fate, which is considered one of the worst. Maybe that's a 1.6 actually, but it's getting close. Does it deserve it? Well, you can watch the full version here. Now, this version here is different from the other versions on YouTube, which, because this one actually has sound which is leveled correctly so you can hear it. The other ones, the sound is so low you can't hear it. So I guess the person that put this together turned up the volume when they were in the editing bay. And that is The Wonderful Land of Oz, 1969, full movie on the channel, YouTube channel, UFO Cult VHS. So, interesting. Here is the actual trailer to it. I thought people might be interested.
Well, how'd you like to meet up?
By the way, look at the quality of that cow. If you have a, I'm just saying, like, if you have a cow of this quality, where it's just a piece of paper mache with some ears, you know, hey, it's just for kids. Let's be real. You can't criticize it as like a getting close to 50 now. So an old man or a middle-aged man, let's say, I don't know. You can't, like, I can't criticize a little kid's film. It's ridiculous, right? It's like me sitting in the lounge going, look at that. What is that, a frog? What is that, a frog? Is a talking frog singing about being green? How stupid is that? Yeah, it's like it's a few moments away from being what is it called? Bar humbug, as they say. Well, it's from Wizard of Oz and Scrooge. But this cow, all I'll say about this, if you're going to put a paper mache cow of that quality together, don't worry about moving the eyes. There's no point. Why have the eyes move? Look, I realize people are having fun, and that's what life's about, right? I mean, it must have been a fun hanging around these people while they're putting together this, and you know,
the
like,
wonderful land of Oz, where pumpkinheads, scarecrows, and tin men talk, dance, and sing, where highly magnified wogglebugs live and witches cast their spells, where an enchanted little boy has a magical adventure. It's all new, never before shown anywhere.
Well, you can take my hand.
So many thrills, you'll be Ozified in the wonderful land of Oz.
I bet there's some people that absolutely love this because they watched it as kids. It's kind of like, I mean, I can make fun, I guess, of the what's it called? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe 1978 animation, which I watched it as a kid. I could make fun of that, I guess, but, you know, I don't know what I'm doing here. But anyway, if you want, I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched like 15 minutes of it and then turned it off. Even I couldn't take it. And I'm an aficionado of bad movies, but this was like too much. It was so bad. But also in it being bad, it's also incredibly fun and loose. And, you know, there is a lot of things about it. You know, we're only really talking about it because it is bad. But anyway, I checked out that. I DNF'd it. One thing I really liked is The Straight Story. I'd never seen it before, and I'm a big fan of David Lynch. Throughout all these years since it came out, I've always been saying, well, I'm going to get around to watching that. But I heard that it was more of a mainstream story, and it wasn't kind of like Twin Peaks and Mulholland Drive or Inland Empire, which are all kind of weird. I still have, I watch parts of Inland Empire, and every time you just go to a certain part, it's good because it's all full of these little strange vignettes. They're kind of like Mulholland Drive, actually, which most people only found out the other day. Mulholland Drive was actually, well, maybe not the other day, but a few months back, Mulholland Drive was actually a TV movie. There's a TV movie version of Mulholland Drive, the full movie, and there's also the full-on reshot version, which a lot of people have seen, of Mulholland Drive. They've got the same cast, pretty much. Isn't that odd? But The Straight Story, and I thought there's a lot of this I love. I love the idea. I love the kind of, it's just such a beautiful, it's like a fairy tale almost, like something somebody would tell around a campfire. It's a beautiful story. I wouldn't say I love every part of it, but there's a lot of it. Sissy Spacek, I forgot, is that her name? Sissy Spacek, yeah. Out of, Carrie originally and a whole bunch of other stuff throughout the years. She was great in this, but she's really only in the beginning. So this is starring here Richard Farnsworth, who I always remembered from Anne of Green Gables, actually, as the father figure in that, back in 1985. And of course, he is in Misery as the sheriff, which is a great movie. It's a really great Stephen King adaptation. But Farnsworth here, what a great actor. He can do so much with just his eyes, like when they get watery or whatever. This was his last movie, 1999, and of course he passed away in 2000. But The Straight Story, if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie, and it deserves the 8 out of 10 that it's got. There's no doubt about that. And it still has that kind of strange David Lynch feel about it. It's hard to explain, but it's the way that people act in certain parts of it. It's still got the way that the thing is framed. It's very Lynchian without going over the line too much, right? Without turning into like something weird. A very restrained type of Lynch. That's a Disney movie also. I watched The Prophecy last night, but I watched 10 minutes of it, and I was wondering if it lived up to how I remember it being an alright movie, and the fact is it didn't, right? I didn't like The Prophecy. I didn't like it. I thought that it's one of those things where in the 90s, everything, as a kid, everything seems to be appropriate, right? It seems like, this story is logical, but it's not really. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's got a little bit of a cult following because Viggo Mortensen shows up as Satan. I didn't even think it was a particularly good version of Satan. I thought that he's a good actor. I like his acting. He seems like a nice guy and stuff, but I don't particularly, it's got Satan talking in it. So what, best version of Satan on camera I thought was Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. Again, that's a softer version, but that's what I thought. I didn't particularly think of anything interesting of The Prophecy. As I said, I watched about 15 minutes, and then I did what I'm just learning, a new technique for me, and that's skim watching. Whereas I just like skim ahead, go here and there. Yeah, I got the plot, and move the mouse forward so I can watch a whole movie like in about 15 minutes. Christopher Walken was great in it though, but he's great in nearly anything, right? He's a great actor. I watched something recently which was called Blast to the Past, which had Christopher Walken. Forgotten her name now. She's the girl out of Clueless. and it had the person out of The Mummy, Brendan Fraser, and forgotten her name, but you're wait on. No, was her name start with A? Can't remember her name. It had Brendan Fraser and Christopher Walken in it, and it also had, strangely, Sissy Spacek. And that's probably why I thought of it if you're looking at suggestion. It just reminded me of something coming up. So there is some of the characters there, of course. It's just like a bunch of like, to me, when I was watching this, it just reminds me of a bunch of like, just stuff together. And oh, look, it's got an angel who calls himself Gabriel in it. Oh, it's got this in it. It's about angels. And then you're like, yeah, what does it mean? Like, what's it about? Like, I was watching this guy, I don't even understand what they're talking about. It's talking about like fire and stuff. And what are you talking about? Angel, most powerful beings coming down from heaven, can't speak plain English about what they want, right? What do you want? What are you talking about? That's the first thing I'd ask him. What do you want a notepad so you can write down what exactly you're talking about with all this stuff? Okay, so DNF that. I watched Mindhorn, which I hadn't seen in many years. The first time I watched it, I actually thought it was very funny. And I do think it's actually somewhat funny. I don't think it's as funny, but it's just a kind of comedy from the same crowd. This individual played the priest in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place back in 2004, I guess. And he is a well-known actor. Julian Barrett, is his name? Barrett? Is that him, or is it Simon, or whatever? Whoever. This actor here who's on the front. What would I say about it? Not much. Would I recommend it? I'd recommend it for a skim watch. So I started watching this here, which was called Westworld. I had not seen a second episode. I only seen one episode of it. I rewatched the first episode. I thought it was interesting. But here's my problems with it. If you're dealing with real life animatronic robots with their own personality, why are you damaging them with like shooting them and stabbing them, right? You should have like fake knives and that's what it come down to, because everything comes down to cost. But I don't know, maybe people just pay extra for it. I don't know, in this strange Westworld where they get to murder people. I'm assuming, based upon what I know about modern entertainment, that the whole kind of like scalp that one of them takes, Ed Harris takes, and finds this map underneath, and he's on this kind of illogical lost like quest, full of these J.J. Abrams mystery boxes, that's not going to amount to anything. I just assume that it's just in there and it will not amount to anything at all, but I don't know. But the first episode I found really interesting. I was actually watching it. I wasn't skim watching it. I must say, when I was watching The Expanse, I was skim watching it, some of it. I was towards the end, I was like on episode 5 or 6 or something, and I was like going through, and then they're talking about their relationship, and I was going, what, I've seen it before. Skip for 5 minutes. Then someone talking about some political strategy, and I was like, yeah, go ahead. Okay, but in my defense, you might think, well, how am I supposed to make sense of the plot and everything if I'm just doing that? I wasn't doing that through the other episodes. I just started to do that. Before the episodes, I didn't know what was happening. I was watching it going, what is this? What is this ship to what? What is that big round thing? I don't know what any of this was. Here's a thing. I don't understand this. Like, someone's going to have to clue me in on this. Why is it they need to inject themselves in with some chemical in order to go some particular G-force speed when there's no gravity on the craft? They seem to be able to turn on gravity and off gravity, so why don't they just turn it off? I thought there was no G-force in space. Why do I say that? Well, allegedly, there's astronauts in a tin can floating around the Earth at, 26,000 kilometers or something? I don't see them becoming like splatter paste or tomato sauce on the one end of the shuttle. No, they're floating in the middle of it while it's going. This is all if that's true. I don't necessarily even believe that. I'm just using that as an example as to if the modern logic is that, right? If that's the modern logic, which I don't agree with, as I said, I got many questions. Where do they get their oxygen from? They fly it up each week, do they? A modern day dive tank contains what, like half an hour's worth of air supply? 40 minutes? How many dive tanks worth of oxygen would they be required to use up there a day? You know, I know oxygen scrubbers or whatever. Okay, where do they get the oxygen from? Let's not get into it. What I'm talking about is, like, in the Expanse, they all get in the ship and they're all like pressing back in their ships. This is in outer space. And they go, I can't move. The G-force is so high. I've got to take this unknown drug so I can withstand the G-force. I was looking at it and going, I didn't know there was G-forces like that in space, right? Why is there G-forces like that in space when there's not in the International Space Station? So what are you talking about? I'm not saying one is true over the other. I'm just saying, if you're going to be consistent with the expanse logic, then you would be drawing from, modern science, wouldn't you? As to, astronauts can make pizza up there. They're going 26,000. Are you saying they're going faster? You're saying they're going 1 million or something. Well, if they are going 1 million, why don't I see any reaction at 26,000 kilometers a second? I don't see any reaction. They're pouring tomato sauce out of a bottle. They're like, there's no effect whatsoever, so why would there be effect at that speed? Where is the G-force? I don't understand that. When I was watching, I was just going, what is this? Now, you can tell me, if you're a scientist or whatever, a person that follows this kind of thing, no, there's G-forces in space. Okay, well, what about the space station? Why isn't there any G-force there? But there's G-force in space? And anyway, I don't get any of that stuff. This doesn't make any sense to me, okay? Like, watching it, I'm just like, it don't even make any sense to me at all. I don't get why that Chinese woman is on the roof, laying down, looking at the stars, or I don't get why the other person's walking around with psycho eyes all the time, beating people up. I don't get any of it. Okay. Okay, so there is one more movie. I have been watching this. It's called Reality. I just started watching it. And most of it's in English, actually. And it is by this director, Quentin. I don't know, some kind of French word. And it's about a director trying to get a movie made. I've watched about 20, 30 minutes of it. It's interesting at the moment. We'll see what happens. Let's keep on going here. What is this? We've gone over that. So here is a lady. She just got her rental car. Let me blow this up a bit.
You ready to see the most dystopian fucked thing that I've seen in a long time? Well, check out my loaner car from Audi, okay? So, beautiful. Beautiful Q7. See that? I have this car for a couple days because my Audi has a coolant issue and is under warranty. So I got this loaner while my car's in the shop, and I just wanted to show you. It sent me with a personal assistant. I don't know if this is a new thing at all dealerships or if this is just an Audi thing, but in the car, let me just show you. Ready? We're gonna meet my new best friend. Meet the Eye of Sauron. Yes, that is a camera. That camera records everything I do, everything I say, every movement I make. If I want to pick my nose, no, you can't. Somebody's watching. If I wanted to eat something, no, somebody's watching. Oh, and then listening. How is this legal? How is it legal that a dash cam can voice record everything that you're talking about, private information? I work in medicine and I speak to patients on the phone about private health information every day. And now I can't do that in this car because Audi is recording it and listening and videotaping. And on top of that, it's also your driving best friend. So if you're speeding, it knows and it tells you, speeding. If you are not wearing your seatbelt properly, it tells you, seatbelt. It's watching, it's capturing, it's recording. I don't know how this is legal, but I wish I had known about this feature before I agreed to take this loaner car, because I would have 100% paid $700 for a rental car instead of this. I can't tell you how uncomfortable I feel on this car.
There is a lady. She got like the loaner car. As you can see, she's under 24-hour surveillance. That's the future. I thought this was funny. This is Gary Busey in 2006 was invited to do an interview honoring Hunter S. Thompson, but instead highlighted how difficult Busey is to work with. Worked with Gary a few times and he's really liked this, says Todd Spence. So let's have a look at it here. It's actually quite funny. This is actually reality. This is how reality is engineered.
Fear and Loathing Las Vegas with you as the policeman. How did it play out?
Start over. Call my name like you just got here.
Could you talk to us a little bit about Fear and Loathing?
Slow down with your talking. Don't make it an interview. Talk to me like you're personal. Like you don't interrupt me, you know. Wait, you got to get my attention before you ask me the question. I'm giving you a scenario here. You know, give me something to work with. Don't just shoot questions at me or I can't do it. Here's the deal. I'm sitting here, I'm out here by myself. You come in and you say, Gary, and I turn and look and sit up and you introduce yourself to me and tell me what you're doing and ask me if it's okay.
Right.
That'll be good.
Gary?
Hey.
I'm here exploring the writer and the personality.
What is your name?
My name's Tom Thurman.
Tom Thurman. Nice to meet you. I'm Gary.
Gary, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us, man.
You just walked in, huh?
Yeah.
You got this lavalier. What's this for?
Just to have two different versions of it.
Good idea. Okay.
Gary?
Yeah.
Tom Thurman.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Fine, how are you, man?
I've been great. What did you just walk in?
Just walked in.
That's the way I like it, you know. Just ambitiously meet people and be hospitable. What's going on?
I'm
That
directing.
dog
Yeah.
is barking. That is not my dog. It's an honor for me to be here to discuss our top story tonight. Hunter S. Thompson.
So that's pretty much reality, isn't it? It's all just scripted. It's all just like, that's pretty much it. It's not organic, we'll put it that way. I love the idea of them, according to his world, they just walk in there and they're just inside his house for some reason, going to ask him a question. Oh, he just walked in. It doesn't make any sense. Of course, he has had a bad head injury, so at that time, he had that in the 90s, I think. He was a great actor, So here we have James Franco. Okay, now James Franco has been saying for months now that he's an alien contactee, right? He's an alien contactee, and he's been saying this seriously, right? Everyone thought, you know, he's doing some kind of stupid viral advertising for a new movie, or whatever. But he was playing it completely straight, wasting everybody's time, okay? Because his publicity agents probably said to him, as I said last time, that you've got to do something now. You've got to remove the sex pest image, otherwise you're never going to work again, right? Because no one wants to work with a sex pest, and in this day and age, right? It's bad publicity. He's not an audience draw anymore. He's an audience negative. So they kind of like, maneuver around him. He's basically, he's DOA, right? He's dead on arrival. You're not interested. So now I'm guessing in order to get some publicity, I was talking about the alien and being, honestly, it was like saying serious, I'm an alien contactee. I've got an alien message for everybody. And here is what his message was.
Hey, the day is here, 7/13. That's July 13th, today. I promised you I was going to reveal something because I found something. It was thrust upon me. I didn't ask for this. Now, I've been through a lot, okay? I went on social media, and I started talking about I didn't want to do that, okay? I didn't choose this. It was thrust upon me. I saw something and I thought, you know what? I can't keep this quiet. People have said I'm crazy. People said I'm trying to, I don't know whatever it is. I've been through a lot. My account got hacked twice. People trying to shut me down so that I don't get this out. Okay, but
Yeah, let's fast forward a bit because basically, he's just saying a bunch of stuff, really. It's all just an act. As you can see here, here's his alien
I
footage.
delivered.
Says that he's got an alien footage of his backyard or something. And there is his alien. This is a purposely drawn person, a person in an alien mask, and just like an outer space costume like you see in the 60s. So look at it. So it's his way of saying, hey, I was joking. Does anybody think that funny in this day and age, just to waste everyone's time? It's not funny. Publicity attempt failed. Okay. I'm sure he's going to have some alien movie coming up, but so there he is anyway. James Franco, crystal clear alien in 4K. Either this footage is real or he's lost his mind. 2.5 million. I'm waiting to see what the things are on the Odyssey. You know, to see, because it's got so much negative press, especially from the Greeks, because they say there's not a Greek in there. Right? There's no Greeks in the entire movie. They got this massive subsidy. I mean, they've probably got a Greek, well, maybe they've got a Greek stuntman. I can't say, because usually actors like to use their own stunt people because they look like the actor, so there's a formulated relationship there. But, you know, maybe there's some like Greek, I don't know, maybe the people cooking the, what do they eat in Greece? You know, like fish and mussels and like pasta or something. I know, I've never been to Greece, but I tell you what, that country looks absolutely majestic. The people look extremely healthy. It looks like, well, it is a beautiful, ancient country. And it'd be lovely to visit there one day, I tell you. And the Greek people have always come across to me as very friendly. I had a Greek boss once. He was amazing. He was a real great boss, extremely generous. And anyway, here's the UFO footage. So people have found that there seems to be a pixel, like at the top there. I'm not sure what that is from. Maybe it's an artifact of the camera, or maybe it's the moon, maybe it's a star, whatever. So you can see up on the top there. In the footage released by the Pentagon, it's stretched. So what people said is if you unstretch it, so it forms a, you know, a pixelated box, or whatever that is. It actually, the picture looks more like just a balloon, set of balloons. Once again. Wow, it's impressive. It is absolutely impressive, those, really impressive, those UFO files, I tell you. I'm so excited. Is everything fake now? If you vanish trust from a society, especially its relationships between its people and its governments worldwide, then government releases, they don't seem like anything really. I mean, you have to check every statement they say. Most of the time they're lying. But anyway, there was just something I thought was interesting. Not stretched, just looks like a bunch of balloons with the, basically the camera's filter or something's, bit different. So that's that. Anyway, that's it for today's video, and I will see you all later. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Close us out with a bit of Reed Wonder's masterpiece classic, City of Angels. Just the ending part. Okay, let's play it properly. Okay, closing us out with a little bit of Reed Wonder, City of Angels. Later Gators, this is Ed from Yours Sincerely Clown World. I still have to work on I'm still working on that. There's supposed to be a subscribe star on there, but I guess it's not. Alright, well, I'll see you later.